Era Romulans, starring Gifts.
Hi, this is Caleb.
This is Eric.
This is Sean.
And this is Carl.
And welcome back. It's Romulans Bearing Gifts, episode 80. And I don't know why I'm starting this, because Eric, you've returned to the show once again after being absent the last time around. Happy to have you back.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to be back. I wasn't even going to be here, but other things happened. I was trying to break into a car at HEB, but nothing was working. And so that's why I thought I wasn't going to make it at all. But we just gave up on the car. And now I'm here. And that's a true story.
See, I was going to say you're off on an away mission and you got caught in this quasar and we're trapped on a planet, but...
Or that. That too.
Somehow I found the quasar more believable.
That 100% happened. What I said happened.
Yeah, if any police are listening, this is a fictional story. I don't know.
I know who owned the car. I mean, it wasn't a random person's car.
Not helping the case. Not helping the case.
Turns out Eric's new job is a repo man.
So, what are we doing here? TNG.
Yep, we're here talking some TNG, which is exciting to get back to that. This time looking at Season 6, Episode 5, Schisms.
Without warning and no explanation, an experiment in terror has begun.
I've been in this room before.
We've all been here before. Have crew members been kidnapped and memories erased?
I need to know if anyone comes on or off this ship.
It looks as though your arm has been severed and then reattached.
And will they be sacrificed as human guinea pigs?
Commander Riker has been taken from the Enterprise.
Next time on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
How did this one come about?
I think Caleb, you chose this, right?
Yeah, I chose this. I chose the last one too. And I was like, okay, we're going to do some TNG, more Sean's wheelhouse. Why don't I pick an episode that I remember being kind of a scary one?
I knew it. Yep.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if I've seen this in many years. So I wasn't, when it first started, I was like, why did I remember this one as being creepy? Nothing about this really feels creepy until it eventually hit. And I was like, oh yeah, there it is. That's why I remember this one.
But as you were rewatching it, I mean, did you forget the beats of the story and where it was going to go? Is that why you were uncertain? Or
yeah, all I remember is that this one was a creepy one, and the name stuck out to me. Schisms.
Oh,
so.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, and you were probably, I don't know, perhaps much younger than I was when I first saw it.
Yeah, much younger, I'm sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it had been. When we first started doing the RBG reboot, I kind of went through my Blu-rays, looking at all the titles. I was like, okay, what are some ones I remember that stand out? And I would kind of scratch them down, like, okay, I want to revisit this one, or maybe I'll pick this one. And Schisms was on that list as well. So it seemed like a good time to finally pull it out.
Well, I'm going to use one word to describe this. It's going to sound really hackneyed, but is Cronenberg-esque appropriate?
Wow.
It's a little bit fair.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing this one, and I have no idea why. But I think, you've got your creepy creatures clicking and all that in their room. But it's not that scene that's the creepy one for me. It's when it's the scene in the holodeck when they slowly and eventually get to the realization that it wasn't just a table. It was I don't know what you would call a torture table, whatever.
Examination table.
There you go. Examination table. Mm-hmm. The realization and the mounting dread in that scene were so palpable, and it really worked really well. Yeah.
Wow. I like these reactions so far.
That was surprising, because when they're in there and they're trying to like a mystery piece the elements together.
Mm-hmm.
Admittedly, the Mid-Journey like prompts are rather big. I mean, it's like build a table, and then it's like this huge table. Oh, but make it granite, and the changes, the transitions were rather huge between them. But the story that they all unveiled, it was definitely giving me like Fire in the Sky.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
Wait, what's Fire in the Sky?
These are alien abduction movies.
Oh,
yes.
About those.
I don't know about this.
One of Steve's favorite topics.
Yeah, well, there you
Oh, exactly. You stole the words from me.
I didn't know. I mean, I know more of those types of films, but I didn't know of them grouped together as like a genre.
Oh yes.
Oh,
There
okay.
is definitely a thing about alien probes. So,
Yeah, I did want to mention it's funny timing that I picked this when I did, because it was maybe about a month ago that Steve, another podcast co-host, I don't think he's ever appeared on RBG, or actually I know he hasn't, but
No, not yet.
he's got this YouTube channel called Spooky Media Reviews,
Right.
and the last thing he did on that was a movie called Communion with Christopher Walken.
yes.
Yeah, and I watched that for the first time just about a month ago, and so then watching this, I was definitely thinking of that movie quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
There is some. Can I talk about, because we just talked about the original series, and I had never seen a single episode.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to listen to that.
Oh, you'll enjoy it. Trust me.
I know I will. I hope there's some Easter eggs for me.
We didn't record those bits.
I don't know.
Okay. I didn't mean those types of Easter eggs. I mean like references that were directed at me. But go on.
I got into Star Trek: The Next Generation very weirdly. I used to, well, I kind of still do, host murder mystery parties when I was in high school. And there was this company called How to Host a Murder that came out. Well, they came out with 2 murder mystery parties that were based on TV shows. One was based on All My Children. And
What?
yeah, I played Adam Chandler. And the other one was based on Star Trek: The Next Generation. And I was kind of like, I knew about All My Children, but nothing about Star Trek: The Next Generation. Isn't that sad?
Was there a video component to this?
No.
Oh, okay.
There was an audio. There was a cassette tape that you could pop in, and it wasn't a murder in the Star Trek one. It was actually a theft. But I'm like, okay, I guess I got to watch some Star Trek to understand what this is about, because everybody's been watching it.
That's amazing to me, being the little sci-fi guy that you were, that you never...
Yeah, never really. And so,
had you watched a film up to that point? A Star Trek film?
that's the first place I went.
Okay.
But those weren't really Next Generation at that point. So
Right.
that I was able to watch some of it on TV. And of course, this is before streaming and all that. Well, I liked it so much that Columbia House Video, remember those people that they'll send you 8 videotapes for like a penny?
I used to stick the stamps all over the place to decorate like my tape boxes and things.
They came out with a Star Trek: The Next Generation special edition on VHS, and they would ship you in the mail, obviously, a VHS with 2 episodes on it, and they were chronological. So it started out with...
Oh, I remember them well.
Yeah, the one with Q in the court.
Yeah, kind of a far point.
Yeah, and then the one where Data has sex with Tasha, like that was on the first thing.
Yeah, it's like the Naked Now or something.
I got all of them, and I think it eventually got to a point where I just kept them in the plastic wrap. And like a complete idiot, I sold the whole thing when I moved from Chicago to Austin for like $300.
Whoa!
And I'll bet you that's a fucking fortune. I mean, they had like the covers.
Also, someone.
So that's why I have seen so much Star Trek: The Next Generation. Oh, and I started watching DS9 after that because chronologically, that's how it
Did you
works.
finish DS9?
Didn't finish DS9.
It gets so good, Sean.
I know. But yeah, because of a murder mystery party. I played Geordie LaForge, by the way.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Well, my cousin was there. He played Data. And I said, you should paint your face white. And he said, I'll paint my face white if you paint your face black. Thank God we didn't
Yeah.
do it.
Oh, jeez.
That would have been a whole different kind of murder mystery going on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
You could have done it in the last Battlefield, but you don't know what that means from TOS.
Oh, we made that reference last time.
You will.
Oh, okay.
but anyway, this is a great episode. And, I don't think this series, putting the first season aside, has that many stinker episodes. I was looking at the thumbnails of some of these, and I just remembered the answer to my question. I'm like, it's all coming back to me. Like, oh, this is the one where Spock's dad's. Oh, this is the one where they turn Picard into a cyborg. Shame on you. Into a Borg. This is the one with Sherlock Holmes. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a treasure trove, all here to stream for me at any time. But focusing on
goes back to RuPaul's Drag Race.
But going back, focusing back on Schisms, a very good episode. And let me tell you right off the bat, the one that I felt the worst for was Riker. I could not abide the feeling of tiredness. Like I hate that feeling. Like if I don't get a good night's sleep, I have to call in sick to work. And how some people can do it, I just don't know. But when you eventually start to realize that there's more to this than just, Riker not being able to sleep, that's when the creep factor settles in. All building up, of course, to that scene in the holodeck.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm of two minds on this episode because there's the semi-clear memory I have of seeing this as it went out in week one. I say week one because I'm pretty sure because TNG was syndicated throughout the US, it wasn't like Cheers or Friends where it's the same day, relative same time for everyone in the country.
Mm-hmm.
It would be completely different time,
Mm-hmm.
could be different station for your local market. So throughout the entire run of TNG, it always aired at 10:30 on CBS, and in Central Time Zone, the local news ends at 10:30, not 11:30 like in the East and West Coast, and so it was always Saturday night at 10:30 p.m. So it would always be late, and me in my room by myself and dark, and so that always added a different ambiance to virtually every TNG episode I saw as they came out, which definitely helped this episode. And then also, I vividly remember this one, although in my memory it happened during my junior or senior year of high school. And I looked at the air date and I was like, oh no, this was like first semester of freshman year of high school, which if you think in your high school mind, that's a far cry away from junior, senior year. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh wow, this was 92. I was thinking 94, even though the series kind of ended already by then. And anyway, I remember it freshly. I didn't remember all the beats and exact things that would happen, but I remembered the overall story from back then. And I haven't really seen it, by the way, very many times since the 90s. So this is the first time really since the 90s I've seen this. And I remember the first time I watched it, like many other TNG episodes, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Like, just completely blown away. Like in a pre-Shyamalan world, I was just like, wow, what a reveal. And, I was so gripped like through each commercial break, like, where is this going? And those were some of my very favorite TNG episodes throughout the run when I was watching them for the first time. The ones where you were just like, how does this make sense? What are all these clues adding up to? I used to love those episodes back in the day. And I just thought it was so profound. But having now the knowledge of what is going to happen with this episode, because even when I just saw that Caleb suggested the title, even before I looked it up or anything, I was quite certain it was this episode. Although there's another episode very similar to this in TNG, also in late seasons, that I guess I get the two of them mixed up because they have a few similar motifs. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't sure if it was this one or the other one, which I think also revolved around Riker being trapped.
Yep, another one you mean. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was like, which one is it going to be? And I was like, oh, it's this one. Okay, got it. And so then it was just more of me watching the details that I have forgotten on this particular story. And to be fair, I was trying to assemble my computer while I was watching it on my phone.
The way Gene Roddenberry meant it to be seen, I'm sure.
Where's David Lynch? Don't watch on your fucking cell phone.
Well, you know, I put on my tricorder
there you
UI
go. Yeah.
on my screen, you know, so it was appropriate. But no, because this is inside outside baseball. Like, I literally had to rush to hook up internet in my place for the very first time to even watch the show. So I was frantically assembling a brand new router and modem and troubleshooting it and realizing I had to acknowledge privacy statements online before it would work. And then I got it going, and that's why I was on the phone at first. And then I was putting the computer together, and it was just playing. And so I was all over the place. So I kind of missed some things because I have a couple questions, but I'll get to those in a second. So, and then I already knew where the overall story was going. And it just, as I was half paying attention to it, I was like, come on now. Like, the clues are so obvious. But of course, I know where it's going because they're like, oh, it was, I remember a flat surface. Yeah, flat surface. And then there was this thing like behind the head. Oh, yeah. But I remember the scissors. The scissors. And I was like, come on. Like, this is so clear. But again, I have the knowledge of where this is going. It felt like on the nose. So that's why I was like, man, I don't know what to think about this because this is nothing like my first time reaction, which was completely different. And the last thing I'm going to say before I stop filibustering, it reminds me of, as you guys know, I watch a lot of first-time reactions of mostly Gen Zers and young millennials who are watching movies that me, Sean, and Carl, and I guess Caleb, know backwards and forwards from the 80s and 90s. Like, they'll watch them for the very first time. Like, it could be Poltergeist or the original Jurassic Park or whatever. And, you know, these people... Wow, I didn't know it was storming. Anyway, these people, they've literally never watched these movies at all, and they're just like, oh, wow, this one's amazing, or this one's amazing, and oh, I love how it did this. And to us older viewers who are watching them, Gen X and older, it's just kind of like, okay, kid, we get it. Like, this is your first time watching this type of movie, or that's, you know, it's been all done a million times now in different ways, but I get it. So I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is because I guess, you know, I was that Gen Z age as a Gen Xer when this came out. So to me, this was beyond fascinating. But I guess someone who would have been older, like someone who would have been 45 or 50 at the time that this aired, they probably grew up reading like the sci-fi fanzines and the Asimov like publications and all the other stuff. So probably to people who grew up reading hard sci-fi, when they would see a story like this, they'd be like, oh yeah, I get the trope. Like, I get the trope. I know what this is. Or, you know, so they were the Gen Xers of back then, you know what I mean, adjusted for inflation. So I guess I was just kind of recalling, I guess I had my Gen Z moment back then.
I don't think there was much in the way of literature. I think, though, the story of Betty and Barney Hill?
We're back to the alien abductions, folks.
I figured that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is kind of, I think that was the OG of...
Oh, no, certainly. But I wasn't focusing on that trope. I was focusing on the trope of, what would you call it? Where it's like you're in a hallucination, but you don't... Okay. Ouch. To continue this, I need to ask my questions because I was distracted. And so there's a couple things I wasn't sure of.
Sure.
So... when the people who seem to have been abducted, when they were like trying to sort the clues and share the clues, they were unconscious when that was happening, yes? And they weren't really conscious on the Enterprise? Am I right or wrong? I literally don't know right now.
Do you mean conscious when they were taken? Because you said on the Enterprise.
No. When they were like on the holodeck and trying to sort through things, was everyone present on the Enterprise? And they were recalling memories?
Yes.
Okay, see, that's where I got screwed up. Probably because I was mixing it with that other episode. So I thought there was two timelines or dimensions happening in the episode because I was so distracted. I thought Riker and the other abductees were like in a mental matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they were all unconscious and they were like playing this out whilst Picard and everyone else were in the regular world searching for them.
No, they were in the holodeck piecing the clues together as they all.
But they were all in the Enterprise at the same time, like as we watched. Oh, okay, see. So I was thinking about that trope, whatever that is I just described, because I thought that's what was happening. Okay, now I realize I'm off base. All right, Caleb, edit out the last 20 minutes. Just kidding. Go on.
Oh, God, no.
Everyone continue.
The whole episode.
I got that cleared up.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that kind of like the trauma recovery scene. And I was actually thinking, we were talking a little bit about murder mysteries and things. That would be great for, one of those detectives. Just bring people into the holodeck. Okay, piece together your memories. Build it up together. I think that'd be great for that kind of procedural dramas.
It's really funny that you mentioned that because I actually thought of Columbo and like whenever they have like the gotcha scene at the end with the killer, the way that scene was presented, that's kind of how I felt.
Oh, Columbo would abuse the hell out of those holodecks. Absolutely. Eat eggs in the bags in the corner, cigarette or cigar butts everywhere. Yeah.
So it's going to sound tired because I brought it up on a few episodes of RBG in recent times, but I had the same reaction with this episode, which most of you have heard me say this before, but something I appreciate about some of these classic TNG or DS9 or whatever episodes, because as we all know, most seasons had approximately 26 episodes in those days, and they had to fill 45-minute times 26 per season. So they had to stretch the budget. They would use the budget more on certain two-parters and other things, and then they would have like I'm loosely using the term bottle show, meaning they're just for the most part reusing sets that are freestanding like the entire production year. So they're mostly just filming on places we know within the Enterprise. There's effects here and there, but it's very localized. And I've said this too many times when we're talking on RBG or when me, Caleb, and Isaac have been discussing certain films with novel elitists, when we talk about famous filmmakers' early works when they had more restrained budgets and resources. I've said it, I'm a broken record. It just seems like that's where the best creativity comes out, is when filmmakers or producers are very limited on budget and sets, etc., that they come up with much more interesting. This also dovetails with something I've discussed on Prognosis Negative, which is like my European foreign film theory, which is because America dominates the standard genre films, drama, comedy, etc. Europeans and certain Eastern countries and others, they, instead of just making a standard drama, because how are they going to top the American output, they always add like a genre or world twisting, perception twisting element. There's so many examples if you go through foreign films of the last many decades. Things like the original Spanish version of Vanilla Sky, Abre tus ojos, and there's so many others like Sex and Lucia, where it feels like a standard drama, romance drama, but then there'll be like a weird, quirky twist where someone falls into a portal and redoes the last year or something. What I mean is, so they're limited on budget, so they come up with these creative hooks to get the viewer interested in these foreign dramas. And that's how I feel about these smaller budget contained TNG and other Star Trek show episodes. And this is all about that. It in my brain, it fits into that wheelhouse. And like I said, I feel like you just get some of the most interesting stories and concepts that, if you kind of think about it, like if you try to pretend this is really real, it's like, whoa, like how much more far-fetched could you get with a situation? Like if things are this crazy out in the galaxy, it's so shocking that any Starfleet vessels make it through their entire 4 or 5 year missions. Like you would think it's like the bombers, like the Memphis Belle in World War II. Like no one ever gets to 26 sorties, you know, like it's almost statistically impossible. That's how dangerous the galaxy seems in the Star Trek universe.
Yeah, that's certainly fair. And I did think it was funny because the last one we did, the Galileo 7, it involved them coming across this quasar, this space anomaly.
Well, yeah.
And it's a very similar opening. I was like, oh, that's a funny pairing, the two of them.
It's true, but you know, it's like playing a game of fish with the cards upside down with Star Trek episodes because there's so many. There's a space anomaly, like there's just countless of those.
Yes, they should definitely learn to avoid those quasars or globular. How do you say it? Globular? Yeah, globular. Thank you. Clusters. The booze is getting
I don't
me.
even know what that word is. Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, definitely should avoid those kind of things in space. They're pretty big and obvious, but yeah, the crew just flies right into them.
Always. Well, we've got all these medicines aboard the ship that an entire planet depends upon. Ooh, there's a light over there. Let's go see.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, that's the human spirit.
Speaking of medicines, you would have thought that they would have had sleeping pills still, because that's what Riker really needs.
Oh, you would think there'd be so many therapies in this time.
Like a hot toddy? Really, Beverly? Really?
And a milk one at that. Come on.
Yeah, ooh, gross.
I mean, come on. Do you at least have some pills? Come on. Trazodone works really well.
She's walking around with hypos on her hip.
That reminds me of that pilot episode, The Cage, where they're kind of showing like the doctor being like a bartender. You know, like that's the way he counsels the crew. The original Pike in the Cage.
Oh yeah.
And like the doctor who only appeared in that story, I think is the older white guy doctor. I don't remember his name. But he Pike has a problem issue, you know, with the situation. He just pops out like his portable bar and like pours him a drink, and I'm just like, what kind of sickbay is this?
Proto-Guinan.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, that's before they had the counselor position in TNG.
Oh, and just speaking of the counselor, poor Marina Sirtis. I feel like she's always my punching bag.
I know her hairdo, her perm. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I always felt like if you watch the different seasons, like if you just selected one episode from each season, her just strange deliveries, they waver and they change per season, but they're always strange in different ways.
Yeah, she's very Perry-esque, Doctor Who.
Yeah, she always stands out to me as just an odd performer.
I feel pain. There is one character I got to point out here. The poor woman that everybody seems to forget is there. The fourth person, even though they always say there are three. Well, all three of them were experiencing. What about the lady? Did you forget about her? She should be like Bones. I'm here too.
Well,
you know.
Okay, I don't want to make a untoward joke, but here it goes.
Oh no,
I have no idea where this is going to go.
Well, because I was like, who is the lady that no one recognizes who's just showing up everywhere? It feels like something they do like on a premiere episode of like
The Office
season 6. And you're like, as if this person has been around all summer, but we don't know because we're watching the premiere episode and they're just there and we don't know why. Or I was going to mention there's the genre of episodes that happen in different sci-fi supernatural shows where it could happen on Buffy or Angel, where it's just like, hey, George, come with us. And it's like, who's this person who's part of the crew that we've never met? And we learn, or maybe it was the sister, like the little sister when they introduced that character.
Oh yeah, darling. Wow.
No, I've got a better example. The houseboy in the pilot episode of The Golden Girls. Whatever happened to him?
Geez.
Oh, of course that one. Yeah,
I know. I feel so silly right now that I would skip over that. But yeah, and then it turns out everyone, like, they've been infused into their memories and they think the person's always been there or whatever. So that's all I was like, is that what this lady is? Or is she like an undercover alien spy? Or is she and this is where it gets untoward, did she win like a Make-A-Wish thing?
Oh, okay.
Or she was one of the executive producers' wives or something? Because it seems so much focus, Or maybe because we all know Star Trek, TNG, and original would have like former Hollywood stars who would, just be a guest star, kind of like Love Boat style. And so I was like, is she one of those? And I just don't recognize her. Like she was on episodes of Columbo and Murder, She Wrote, and she's just doing a guest spot in TNG. I have no idea. But it seemed like there was so much focus for someone who's like a one-off character.
Well, they just wanted to show that because they mentioned that some of the other crew members are being abducted. So they just wanted one person outside of the cast.
Oh, I understood the purpose. It felt so slotted in, though.
Yeah.
Because they do that with other characters in other episodes, but it kind of feels a little bit more natural.
She was there at Data's poetry reading. She's around. She's always there in the background.
Yeah, I almost thought Picard was dating her. The way they were sitting next to each other in the poetry reading, because I thought, oh, are there some episodes I don't remember where Picard was like flirting with someone for a little while?
Yeah, and by the way, just mentioning when you were going to say something untoward, I thought the joke was going to be that, maybe she was Roddenberry's recent attraction. Just throw her in there. Well, shows up on set with her.
I call that the Bergman effect. That's an Ingmar Bergman reference, but I had that in the back of my mind, but I said producer's wife or something instead.
Oh, by the way, I will say, when we open this thing up, and we're getting the different, more stuffy kind of TNG style, more, I don't know what to call it, kind of sterile quality.
Yeah.
It was definitely a giant contrast from that episode of TOS we watched. It took me a little bit of adjustment to fall back into the style.
Oh, because of how much looser they are, you mean, in the 60s TOS? Like, feel more human?
Yeah, a little bit more human, and Data's poetry reading didn't help too, but but I definitely enjoyed all that stuff, of course. But
as much as I loved the TNG era, and the associated programs of the 90s, as much as I loved it, that was the quality that always bothered me, and it's why I like DS9 when it started getting better, because it felt like I was going to say Ronald Moore was really trying to push them out of that and get to something that we would see like with BSG Revival. It seemed like, he was trying like the proto version of that with DS9, and I thought that was a good thing. But then that's probably why I dislike Voyager so much, because it felt more like it was going back to the tried and true. I didn't really appreciate it at the time, where everyone is so perfect and cookie cutter, and the arcs are very minuscule because the characters are so locked in who they are all the time. Like there's not much gray, in most of the 90s Trek. I never liked that aesthetic, and that's exactly what I was thinking about, Caleb, when you said sterile or whatever you want to call it. I never liked that. But however, that being said, and the comparison to TOS and having like the little bit of the whiplash. So not too long ago, I just watched a few random episodes of season 1 TNG. And for those of you who haven't seen very many of those in particular, like just pick random ones, not necessarily the ones everyone remembers. Just pick random season 1 TNG episodes. And in my opinion, they in what we're talking about right now, they feel more TOS-esque versus the seasons of TNG that we remember more.
Absolutely.
They feel looser, more experimental. Someone said cookie cutter. That's a way I really think of seasons 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of TNG. Like everything's by the numbers, as we've discussed many times before in RPG.
Yeah.
But in 1 and 2, especially season 1, they didn't know what their template was. So it had more of that classic Doctor Who feel where you don't even know what next week is going to be, because it'll be a whole different feeling with a different rhythm. And like they were much more into the planetary sets like TOS in like the early days of TNG. It really feels like a 90s skinned TOS in season 1, in my opinion. Yes, they're a little bit stiffer, but they're looser than they are in the later seasons, which is, I wonder if it's like, okay, here's the other, the religious blasphemous comment of the episode. Because I always hear about like the Mormon effect, LDS, and no offense if you're one of those listeners, probably not because we're so vulgar on this podcast, but I hear people say like the societies that are so much more uptight socially, like I'll just use the example, generalizing Utah or like Japan. Like they're generally uptight in their regular lives, but behind closed doors they get super freaky. And how that pertains to TNG is they're so stiff in most of the seasons of TNG. But if you guys have ever watched the blooper reels of TNG cast between takes, they're like drunken sailors.
Oh,
And that's
no.
what I'm saying. Is that like the LDS Japan effect? Like they're so uptight on camera that they're just completely nuts. Like when they're just goofing off. Watch the bloopers. There's many different YouTube videos of this stuff. You've never seen Patrick Stewart and the rest of the gang just act like fraternity sorority girls, like pulling pranks on each other and practical jokes and just silliness.
Let's put this whoopee cushion on Michael Dorn's chair.
I'm serious. Watch them, and you'll see like Riker and Picard like hugging and swaying each other, and like they're dancing. Like all they're just nuts.
Patrick Stewart's like, Lava, pull my finger.
Oh, no.
Just like that.
By the way, speaking of Worf, I had completely forgotten about Mott the Barber.
Oh,
I saw him, I was like, oh, hey, yeah, old buddy, I remember that guy.
The reason I don't forget him is because those aliens will show up, like, not the same one, obviously, but that species will randomly show up in DS9, and for some reason I feel like a lot in Lower Decks. And every time I see the random ones, I'm always like, oh, that's like the barber guy. So that's why I can't forget him, just because I just see those guys popping up all over the place.
I'd forgotten about Mott the Barber, but once I saw him in this episode, he was throwing some hard Neelix vibes.
Yep,
That's an insult.
I'm just saying, the energy that he was saying, the way he was talking, the way Worf, appreciated him. I was like, that feels like Neelix, early proto Neelix.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny
I very
because I
much
was going to
agree.
say proto Garrick, except people love Garrick.
Oh,
That is not
I
Garrett.
can see what you mean, but yeah, no.
I just meant
no.
like he's more of a vocational person on
Yeah,
board.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he's like Tal Shiar or not Tal Shiar, whatever the Cardassian Gestapo is called. Like he's a former agent, whatever. I'm not saying he's that like a covert operative. I just mean he's a vocational person who's not really part of the command staff or anything, and he's just there to put his 2 cents in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Except Garrick is cool and interesting, insightful.
Yeah, and much better used. This guy, I feel like he was only around for a short while, and then they wisely got rid of him.
That's why I say proto, because he's not fully formed.
But since I couldn't remember exactly what the plot was, the Worf scene with the scissors and his like sudden panic, I was like, what the hell's going on here? Like,
oh, see, that's the one that reminded me what was going on. Because once the scissor one happened, I was like, oh, okay, I know where this is going.
I didn't figure it out until the holodeck scene.
Well, again, it's your first time. That's totally different.
I mean, I thought he was suffering from the same thing that Riker was, but he didn't complain of being tired. Riker.
Oh, yes, I did think that at first too, that he was like losing REM sleep, even though I'm not sure if Klingon physiology.
And the scene where Data explains that Geordi was only gone for what was it, like a minute and 15 seconds.
oh
And
yeah,
Geordi's like, no, I was gone for 90 minutes. What are you talking about? I remember, I don't want to say it sent chills down my spine. I mean, geez, it wasn't that creepy, but that conversation is like, ooh, there's something going on here. It reminded me of, wasn't there an episode where people were disappearing and Beverly Crusher was the only one, like,
Yes, very famous.
yeah, and it ended with her, like, she was the only one, and she was like Captain Crusher, and it was just her on the ship. That
Yes.
freaked the hell out of me.
Weirdly, like a forebear for anyone who understands how the game Fortnite works, with the shrinking fog.
Yeah.
Okay, no one plays video games there.
Well, I do, but not.
never played it.
So Fortnite, it's a massive arena with all the players, and to keep the game going, so eventually it's a last man standing battle royale, there's a shroud around the entire island, and it's gradually shrinking. And so it has to bring everyone together so the last people will fight it out.
Oh, like the forbidden zones in Battle Royale.
Oh yeah.
Right. There you go. Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, just since we mentioned a little bit about the creepiness, I love that scene that you mentioned, Sean. That definitely escalated the mystery. But just for the escalating the creepiness, after we get the reveal of, oh yeah, they've been abducted, all of a sudden they throw it out of nowhere. Oh, Riker, turns out they cut off your arm and put it back on.
Oh my god!
And you know what's so cool is that they never explain it. Like, they don't feel like they, which is fine. And they say, well, maybe they were explorers like us. Well, how many people? Well, we never will know. I like that.
That seems obvious. I mean, an obvious, not conclusion, but is it supposition or theory? Because I was thinking the kind of the same thing. And also, Star Trek likes to go that angle, leave that door open. And then they set it up as if this is a perhaps setup, kind of like how The Seed ends. But at the time of watching The Seed and Space Seed, and Wrath of Khan, it was like, oh wow, that's so perfect. I get why they chose Space Seed, because they kind of leave it on a loose cliffhanger. But then when I started going through more TOS, I realized a lot of them end like that, where they say something to that effect. What's to become of what we have left here? Like, they start doing that a lot. So it's not as novel as I thought it was. But they do that with this episode a little bit. And is this ever picked up, or is this like TOS episodes where they leave a breadcrumb and it never goes anywhere?
I don't think they ever come back now.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's just weird that they do that.
If there was an internet, nerds would have been taking to it. Oh, are they going to come back? No, they put an Easter egg in it. There's a hint that they're coming back. Okay.
I think even in '92 there was still some type of fanzine community, but the BBS thing was starting to
that's right,
become a thing for this Uber nerds.
Yes, AOL chat rooms and shit. Yes.
For the young kids who listen to us, I know we have tons of listeners in the Gen Z population. Think of it as like an old school version of like Reddit.
Yeah,
is the way
and it's slow.
Yeah, it's not really graphical. It's like those, just kind of like those, not vectors, but I don't know what you call those graphics, like the simple text graphics that used to be on those terminals
DOS
that we used to see everywhere back in the day. Not DOS per se, but I can't remember the old computer network term. There was a term for like terminals that would be in a library or a workplace where it didn't really have a full internal computer, but it was in an early like office network.
Microfiche.
And it all had that. Carl, you're the computer whiz. You're supposed to be able to help me here.
I'm trying, but I don't quite.
You know what I'm talking about? If you remember Superman 3, like the way the monitors looked and the text, it was kind of like standard on like all computers.
Remember Superman 3? That's what you.
I know Paul remembers Superman 3.
I remember the dancing robot lady all fucked up. Yeah, that terrified me as a kid.
That was early Borg people. But anyway, yes, I know what you're getting at. I just don't know the formal name.
There was a term. It was like not CRT. It was some type of 3-letter acronym that meant like some like network workstation or something like that. And it just meant like if you disconnect this thing, it doesn't function as a standalone. It has to be hooked into the old timey like office networks that exist,
like a terminal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And early customer service jobs, and like the people who used to book your tickets in like the late '80s at the airport, they all had these terminals, and they all had that stock CGA. I don't even know if it's CGA. It's like whatever it became before CGA, like the green text, like the Matrix. Oh God, thank you.
No, it wasn't the Matrix. It's because the resolution was too high in the Matrix. I know what you're getting at. I just don't know.
Yeah, in the Matrix they were flowing up and down, but I mean, if the letters were static on the screen,
even that still too high res. We couldn't get Japanese characters back on those screens.
Anyway. That's why I said I want to say vector, but it's not vector graphics.
You just got to let him work it through, Carl. I don't think he.
It's like, I thought Carl had, because Carl's the computer whiz.
I know what you're talking about. I just don't know a formal term for it. I know.
If you encounter computers or terminals in the 80s and early 90s, this was ubiquitous everywhere.
Sure.
Well,
yep.
Yeah, maybe moving back to the episode just a little bit away from the computers and whatnot.
No, I have 30 more minutes of Computer Chronicles.
I guess actually slightly related to computers. I was thinking during the Data poetry reading, and
oh dear,
you can see everyone's bored. Riker's he's trying to stay awake. And then they get this scene with Data asking Geordi, like, "Oh, I noticed people were responding kind of strangely to my poem. Like, did you get any emotional response from it?" It was actually making me think a lot about the recent kind of AI art boom. And my partner actually occasionally will just like put in those little prompts and it'll make a little story. And I was like, oh yeah, this is definitely an issue that's remained. It's become even more prevalent in the modern era than it was this time.
You know, I was hanging out with some little nieces back at like holidays times last year, like in December before Christmas, and I was just hanging out with them, and I had like an iPad or something in my hand, and I had ChatGPT on there, and just to pass the time, you know, to entertain the kids without having much on hand, I was just like, give me 5 things, and we'll make a story with it. And, you know, gingerbread house, snowman, Santa, whatever. And I'd be like, in ChatGPT, make me a Christmas story with these elements. And yeah, some of them were pretty decent. I mean, to entertain, some were pretty lame, but I was like, it's doing pretty good. Like making a basic story with random words. That's funny you had that kind of feeling, because I had a little feeling that reminded me of modern times with technology, but a different one than that in this episode. When they were doing the holodeck thing, and they've done this in other episodes of TNG, but they're like, no, it's like a bigger table, or like this, or like that. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of like brainstorming. It reminds me of when I'm trying to search something out on Google or a search engine. I'll be like, you know, tell me the diagnosis for hypoglycemia. What are the common signs of hypoglycemia? You know, and I'll just like keep changing my query until, oh, there it is. That's the answer. And it's a visual representation, obviously, on this holodeck. But I felt like that was an interpretation of what certain people like me do in modern times when you're just trying to sort something out using the internet. A nice previs of that.
No, that's what I was saying earlier. It was like using Midjourney prompts. You're trying to get.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
And okay. Well, you know, it's like using AI to generate images, but you have to give it the prompt, and it's trying to draw what you were describing. And so the same way that they were going through the, you know, no, it started as a flat surface. No, put an angle on it. Oh, but it's made out of different material. Put an arm on. As they were doing that, it's the same kind of dialogue with you know, using AI as Midjourney to draw you know, images now. So it's you know, whether it is narrowing down medical diagnoses on the internet or literally trying to draw an image and draw a thing. They were ahead of the time between Data's cyber poetry and, you know, the prompts for the holodeck.
That is the cool thing. I don't read much classic sci-fi short stories or long stories, but I do think it's cool when I usually get Cliff Notes versions, and by that I mean like a YouTube review on like a sci-fi book or something, because I won't read the whole book. But so what I get from watching Cliff Notes versions is like, yeah, there's so many interesting classic sci-fi stories. And yeah, this is what the main story is, but it's the little details, the futurism and whatnot. Like I saw a breakdown on Demolition Man the other day, and it was so like, because that movie looks very 90s futurism, you know, but when the person was breaking down the film, there's just like, you know, with Star Trek, classic Star Trek, there's so many things that, and Demolition Man is supposed to take place like in 2029 Los Angeles or something. Even though the aesthetic is 90s, the actual devices and technology they have was very accurate to like the 2020s in real life. It's just, you know, it looks different, you know, like just like how they do tricorder, Palm Pilot, or, you know, whatever. It's not exactly the same, but so many of their concepts, go back and watch that movie and you're like, wow, it's kind of like watching, or it almost feels more accurate than the Tom Cruise Spielberg film Minority Report, where they're trying to guess. Demolition Man almost gets it more accurate than Minority Report. It just looks so corny that you don't realize it. But on that front, I know this is me being Ming-mongy about it. No one understands what that means. That's an old Doctor Who podcast term, not meant to be derogatory. As I was watching this now, that particular scene of trying to sort out the holodeck business, I understand this is a visual program. They try to highlight the holodeck whenever they feature it in TNG. I get it, but I was trying to imagine if it was real world Enterprise, and it would seem so weird to me. It's like, hey, we're having this discussion in sickbay. Let's all reconvene on the holodeck and continue this, brainstorm session. Like, I was just imagining the mechanics of it and how it would seem so weird. Because I was thinking, if this was really real in this future time, they would just have like a 12 by 12 square on like a desktop in sickbay. And it would be like a 12 by 12 cube holodeck, like on a desktop. And they would do the exact same thing, but it would be like miniature in front of them. You know what I mean? Seeing the table and this and that. It's just, I know it's not real world, but I was just thinking that'd be so much more practical.
Well, I guess if you got a holodeck, why not do the full immersion?
More tactile, more real.
Yeah, it just seems so like, hey guys, let's reconvene like 4 decks down. I don't know. I was just imagining myself being in a big office building and being like, okay, let's table this discussion and meet, on this different floor wing of the building.
Hey, they got turbo lifts. They can be there in 45 seconds.
You are so correct, but that's why I'm the Ming Mong in this conversation, because I'm getting way too granular about stuff that doesn't matter. That's kind of what Ming Mong is. Again, that's why I'm the Ming Mong in this conversation, because I'm getting way too granular about stuff that doesn't matter. That's kind of what Ming Mongism is.
Well, if you have to explain it every time and say, "Oh, believe me, it's not derogatory."
It's not derogatory. It's because the reference got jammed in my head like in 2006, 2007 Doctor Who podcast, and I've never been able to jettison it or replace it with something better.
Hey, that was almost 20 years ago. Jeez.
Oh, God. Okay, stop. Go on, next.
There was a moment I liked, just again amping up the little bit of the tension when they're like, "Oh shit! Like there's something weird going on with our crew members disappearing. Hey, let's ask the ship. Like, hey, is anyone missing right now? Missing.
Oh my God!"
And I was like, "Oh my God, it's happening right now." I really was saying that in my seat. I was like, "Oh God."
Well, why doesn't the computer say anything when the person starts missing? Like, wouldn't people want to know? Like, Lieutenant so and so is missing, Captain. No, it's like.
It's a good question.
That comes up in big crew sci-fi all the time, where you wonder the exact same thing, because like in Aliens, they showcase that so well. Like when the different guys are getting taken out in the refinery by the aliens. Oh, we lost so and so and so and so, or
where's Bowski?
Yeah, I like how they did that in Star Trek 2009 in the opening scene, where the original captain of the Kelvin goes to the Romulan ship, and as soon as he gets unalived, that thing pops up on the view screen, deceased, like right away. And then later when the red shirt gets taken out by the turbine, and I don't know.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, like yeah.
Yeah, like the vitals are cut off, or not cut off.
Like Hunger Games, too.
Yeah. So it feels weird. I don't know, this is in the 90s, but it feels weird they don't have that.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even think there was so much to talk about, other than generally I think this is a really liked episode, and one of the, not the top elite TNG class of episodes, but it's in the upper echelon of well-remembered, well-liked, well-respected episodes. I'm quite certain.
Yeah, like the top of the class of the mid-tier, I would think.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that.
I remember that this comes up, I don't know if it's a couple more times or once more, but the ode to Spot. Like, does Data come back later and like trying to refine that? I feel like that comes back.
Doesn't he like paint Spot in an episode? Not paint Spot, but
there are lots of references. There's lots of references to Spot, but I don't know if they come back to do more poetry.
And
I don't think that
the way Data prompted that poem about an ode and all that, I thought he was going to do a poem on Tasha Yar, is what I thought was going to happen. And then when it was, of course, Spot, but of course, Spot and Tasha Yar and some other things were referenced in Picard Season 3 not too long ago. So.
You must tell him he's a pretty cat.
I forgot Sean has a P word fetish. I didn't say which P word.
I like pretty things.
Exactly. Oh, I didn't see that movie.
I thought it was Picard. Picard.
There you go. But that's, I guess I feel like we're coming around to the time we need to figure out a unit of measure for this episode. So, what do you guys got?
Alien probes?
Sure.
Not the A word that I would use in that
Alien probes? The arm was high on the table. Remember.
Oh, I did like, by the way, that the kind of approximation that they came up to only looked vaguely like the actual one that we see. I thought that was nice. It would have been so easy for them to just use the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, alien probes, that sounds good to me. 5 alien probes. Sean?
Okay, well, I'm going to give this 4 alien probes out of 5. I had a lot of fun watching this. It wasn't a morality play like I was halfway expecting. It was one of the fun episodes. But yeah, really good. I'm glad there was an episode that was like this, and it wasn't in another, okay, let's go down and visit the people on this planet, and whoops, something goes wrong. You know, like, oh, Wesley stepped on the grass.
Yes, that's exactly the one I was fell in the flower bed or whatever. Yeah. It was like, oh no, this is an allegory on Singapore. Oh, gee.
Or remember when they did trans? Was it? I think it was more gay than trans. When Riker falls in love with the alien that's non-gender.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or I get that one mixed up, or maybe it's a Voyager episode where it's a fully matriarchal society, and then I can't remember if it's Voyager or TNG. It's a fully matriarchal society, and all the males of the species are subservient, and someone on the crew is like all of a sudden becomes a suffragette.
You know what? They stole that from the Nicolas Cage version of... What's the fucking movie? What's that movie, Caleb? With Christopher Lee, with the cop. I ruined it now. What's the name of the movie?
I have no clue what that is.
Yeah, I'm lost.
Christopher Lee, the guy gets Secker. The Wicker Man! They stole that from the Nick Cage.
Oh, okay.
That was an element of matriarchy?
Yeah, it was in the remake. It was
I haven't seen the remake. I've only seen the original.
The Bees!
Cage and Christopher Lee, and I was like, whoa, we're across the street.
I've never seen it, but the Bees! The Bees! I know about that.
Yeah, and I can't remember the details of this episode, but junior member of the crew is like trying to champion like the rights and everything of the male of the species, and someone with higher rank is just like, dude, chill out. Like, this is their society. Like, what are you doing? Like, you just can't rewrite everything like it's humans, like, you know, our norms. And I'm like, don't people get this in the 24th century?
The fun ones that stuck out for me, there's another one that's a little bit like it's like a Base Under Siege horror movie. And that's the one where they all de-evolve. And for some reason, what really freaked me out, and I'll never forget it, is seeing Deanna Troi in the bathtub as a fish woman.
Oh, I was thinking about the Geordie one where he devolves, or not devolve, changes into a different species.
Yeah.
Doesn't Worf turn to like a reptilian thing and he like kills someone?
Yeah.
But lastly, speaking of trans allegories and trans rights, I don't want to spoil it. I think Carl's seen it. The Orville did what I thought was an incredible episode of sci-fi allegory on that subject. I think it should be like nominated for like a, what are those awards, Nebula or whatever, Saturn Award, or I don't know what those different things are.
Yeah,
and Saturn Award.
That's the final season of Orville, which is just one of the many bangers. And because for those who don't know, Orville is very much like not a pastiche, but it's very TNG-ish adjacent.
Very
extremely, but in the best ways in the later seasons of Orville. And that's, you know, because I don't necessarily like modern societal message episodes and movies of modern times, but I thought Seth MacFarlane or whoever was responsible for that, check that one out. It's very good.
This is true. He did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
4 stars. Joe Bob says, go check it out.
It wins like the best TOS or TNG does, which is, as a viewer, you don't know whose side you're on. That's what I like with the sci-fi and the Star Trek allegory. Not where it's so heavy-handed, this is the right and this is the wrong. Where you're like sitting there and you're like, I don't know whose side I'm on this.
You mean like when Riker's supposed to prosecute Data and argue that he's not really a human?
Oh yeah, Sean loves the court and it makes sense. But Sean definitely loves the courtroom.
When did I say anything else about courtroom drama?
We did the Strange New Worlds, and we were talking about procedure and
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a good one. Mm-hmm. But Eric, how about you? How many alien probes? I
thought you said venal probes. I wasn't sure what that meant.
I'll take some more vino. Yeah.
I said venal, but okay. Old me 100% 5. It was what it would have been back in the day. New me, it's a solid 4.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll jump the line. I'll also give it a solid 4. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not one of the all-time great TNG ones, but definitely stuck out in my young mind and come back to it. Yeah, it holds up well.
I agree. 4, everybody. That's
wow.
the same.
Okay. It's quite unanimous.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I just love what they can do with little budget and sets and scenery. I just think it's some of the most interesting sci-fi, and especially Star Trek.
Nice. Well, I guess closing out the show for today, this is Caleb.
This is Eric.
This is Sean.
And this is Carl.
And until next time,
let's fly!
Beware Romulans bearing gifts.
And this is Carl.
Let's
and
fly!
Until next...
Oh, sorry. Fucked it up. You don't know what I'm going to say.
Well, I'll just add in, and until next time,
let's fly. I just saw that. I've been seeing that dumb trailer for the last 4 days of Discovery new season. Hey, I would like either whoever introduced the last episode or someone else to introduce, because I want to take the back seat even though I'm still here, if I may.
Caleb, you got it.
So I guess it'll go me, Eric, Carl, then Sean.
No. Okay, I got to think about this because I got to consult the show Bible. This has never happened before.
No, wouldn't it be Eric, Caleb, Carl, Sean?
According to the show Bible, it's always in order of who appeared first on the particular podcast we're on. And so that's why the order is always is what it is. But see, this is an unprecedented situation because we've never had someone else host while I was in attendance on my own show. So this is like unwritten territory. I don't know. You guys tell me what you want to do. I don't care.
The order's already messed up because I did it last time and Carl was around before I was on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's already all gone crazy.
You go ahead and do it again, Caleb, since you're leading off, and the rest of us will do it in the standard order. So it would be Caleb, me, Sean, Carl.
I'm so confused. Okay.
You know what's funny is we didn't even discuss this the first time around. We just kind of knew.
No, it's okay because I wasn't there, so it's non-canonical anyway, so it doesn't matter. I don't even think this counts as canon either, so it's okay.
There's canon somewhere?
It's something me and was it Caleb or someone else from original RBG?
Yeah, it was you.
A lot.
Yeah, not me.
Well, I know it was me. Oh, but not you. I used to talk about canonical and non-canonical all the time. Because I used to say canonical was me, Kat, and Carl, and non-canonical was me and the other Kat and Caitlin.
I still include it in the show notes all the time just to keep that tradition going for you. But
I know. I told you to take it out because it doesn't make any sense anymore.
It never made sense, but I keep it in either way.
Okay. It makes sense to me. Let me bring up my fake note. Why is that funny?
No reason at all. Yeah.
Oh, you guys, I'm surprised because Josh is the one who likes to make impersonations of me when I'm not here.
Oh, I'll say when we did it the first time, I almost said, "Hi, this is Eric." But I was like, "No, I don't want to mess it up."
It's all good. I understand.
I didn't want to take Josh's line.
13 Bannerman Road.